Hmm. Doing here. Hey everybody, how are ya? I'm Bleary. I am Bleary, but I am here. And I'm glad that I am here and you are there, and neither of us is inside a place with bars on the cells, because those are very unpleasant places to spend your life. I'm positive, and I have spent relatively very little of my life there, and I'd like to keep it that way. So, what's going on with you guys? I'm here for you to ask me questions. I could tell you stories for the next 20 hours straight, but that's called a book, and that's what I'm writing. At least a book is more monetizable, having not made any income for a few years, and not expecting to make actual income off of this. It would be great to be able to have a roof over my head and eat. So that's the craven purpose of my book, other than to write for you, is to potentially have a roof to over my head and to eat. I know I'm using white privilege to do that, and I do apologize, but I'm actually Jewish. But that's, hey, if that's white enough for you, then it's white enough for anybody else. I don't really give a rip. I happen to have figured out, in part of the epiphany of being in jail and reading some very great books by some very great authors of many different tones of melanin in the skin of their human beings, of our cousins, because they're all our cousins. Literally, I see my Aunt Diana Shales on here, whom I love very much. And I have literal cousins that you could look at and that you would see as people with more melatonin. And then my Aunt Diana and my father are people with less melatonin, relatively. And it's amazing how biologically and scientifically little that matters, which is none at all. And it's amazing how important that is in the world, and how many of the people that I spent 600 I'm sorry, need to get to my math, 461 hours with in a solitary confinement situation, none of them are treated as they are worthy of being treated, and I consider them my friends. So I got a lot of friends inside prison now. I think I'm a very bad person to send to a high security block of the Inverness jail. That was a really bad idea for the government to do that, because now I know how to beat them, and I know lots of things that no human should know and do. So, and none of them are gonna allow them to attack me anymore. That wasn't that much fun for me, and I bet it was less fun to watch for you, or maybe it was less fun to watch for me. I don't really watch it myself, and I have not seen it myself, nor have I seen a news story, nor have I read the news since June 3rd, because there are no communications inside a solitary confinement cell block. None. There's no computer, there's no electronics, there's no music, there's no TV, there's no entertainment. You will have a max amount of about 3 hours freedom per day, and it does go down from there, significantly more down if there's a lockdown, which there has been. If people go to the hole, which this used to be the hole, but there is actually a place where you get less time out of your cell than this. Other than that, it's the same. I mean, you can only keep people in a cage. You can't see out of my cage. You can't see out of the cage in the hole. So you got, 2 hours less of sanity per day in your life if you choose to go to the hole by but really your only opportunity. You can mess around when you're getting food. People trade food all over the place because the stuff's horrible, and people have to find the few different things that they personally can choke down. So there's a lot of food trading that can cause problems, because guys get grumpy if they don't get to eat, and guards sometimes are very much in hurry to get them back into their cell, which is where they're at. I was pretty good the first day. It's not like a movie. I went and took my tray and went to sit down and be friendly with somebody. But guess what? You eat in your cell. The only people that eat out are the slave labor, whom do all of the work, all of the food service, all of the janitorial work and everything. And if somebody can type to me in this chat, $1 a day, I'm going to make them the first person that I put on my email list for a free copy of my new book. I don't know what I'm going to sell it for, but it's going to be around $40. It's a big book. It's going to be 500 pages and color photos and good shit. Very excited about it. Very excited to share it with you. Go ahead, throw a number out there with a $sign. Gosh darn it. I lost some weight. Can you tell I lost some weight? I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of weight in 21 days. That's a good thing. I meditated and I worked out and I wrote a book for you, to you, from you, for you, with you. With a lot of you, actually, as a matter of fact, in my mind, and with some very great authors in my mind as well that changed my life for the better while I was living inside for 20 days. So, all right, I'm going to break it to you. Well, I'll save the question. We're not done yet because nobody's thrown me another question yet, and I don't need to sign off yet. And I'm not here to bore you or tell you everything that happened over a 461-hour period. That would be a long story, but I could do it. What's going on in the outside world? There's some really weird stuff that I have kind of heard, but I've not read a single article nor anything about if there's any media of my situation. Although some guys saw it in jail for a brief moment, some of the trustees, and I know something was in the media somewhere, but I don't know what it was. It seems that it's been covered up relatively effectively so far. But I met, one of the reasons that I'm here now out is I met with the DA on Friday. Today is Monday. Although the days have all been one since Friday for me. I slept for the first time last night, somewhere around midnight, after getting out of jail about 36 hours, or started getting bailed out 36 hours before. Not getting out for a long time. It takes a long time to get out of jail. It's a very unpleasant experience. Holding cells are amongst the least sanitary and least tolerable places that you are in during times in incarceration, because you can be comfortable in your cell, right? You have a very uncomfortable mattress on a piece of steel and concrete, but it's yours, and the door shuts, and there's a very loud HVAC system that's, for air conditioning. It stays nice and cool in there. Some people get frozen all the time or feel cold all the time. That's not me. I was hot all the time for the most part after I got used to it. And then I also exercised constantly to keep as warm as I possibly could. So a lot of times I did not wear much on top at all, maybe a t-shirt. I mean, you only have one option. You have a t-shirt, and then you can wear your prison top over it, which is a non-elastic, very, very heavy material that would keep you relatively warm, except they're all very short sleeve. They're all as short sleeve as this t-shirt. And it's very inelastic material, and it's fine. I mean, it's not an uncomfortable thing to wear. Probably like scrubs, but much heavier material than scrubs. Most of them are dated 13 years old, or I'm sorry, it's 2013. So that's like a 7-year-old garment, and they're, other than a few holes here and there strategically, they're pretty much still in the same condition they started out in, just probably a little less bright. Got some interesting stuff. Let's see. Okay, so the answer for the slave labor, since nobody guessed, is that it's $1 per day. They get out of their cell to serve us breakfast, which is the first time anybody gets out of their cell since the latest would be for them maybe 10:30 the night before. So they've been locked in confinement, for 8 hours or whatever, right? And The rest of us have been in a really long time, sometimes since that earlier afternoon, the day before, or sometimes since after dinner. It depends. Father's Day weekend was a bad one. We lost our walks Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I believe Monday too. And that's not a happy group of guys when that's all you get out. And you cannot make any phone calls from your cell, and you cannot make phone calls during your med line, which is another time you might get out of your cell for a brief moment, or when getting your tray and taking your train back in your cell. There are no touching the phone. If you do, you will get thrown in the hole and also lose the walk time that is upcoming. That would be the most likely first thing that happened to you, is that your quick phone call, and they would probably let you finish it. They would probably let you have a 10-minute phone call in exchange for your next hour and a half of walk time, or they may not. But most of the time when they push you too hard and their guys snap, you can only push somebody that's in that condition so hard before they snap at each other or at you. And like I said, when you get a guard that induces people to be in a very bad mood, it can be a very long and I would say dangerous day for everybody relative to the other days. So they call it Multnomah County Inverness Jail. It is like the most solitary, locked down prisons in a movie or a TV show that you have seen. The thing that is worse than prison is that, unlike prison, there's no entertainment for your mind or soul. There's no interaction for your mind and soul. The people that you interact with are at most half the block at one time, because nobody gets out more than half at one time. And when you're doing medicine and getting your food, it's usually out about 8 cells at a time before the 8 cells are locked, and then 8 more people shuffle out. So you do not have any freedom of movement or choice ever at all. And anything you miss is tough shit, except for medication. They don't give people the medications that they deserve or need, but whatever they do give people, if you're out of the cell block for some reason when your medication is passed out, that is the one thing that will come back to you. They will get you your medication. The nurses are amongst the, I was going to say the most, but probably the only charming individuals that work in the institution. But that's not fair to a relatively charming chaplain and a guy that I didn't talk to who's a counselor and seems to be pretty much a decent guy, but I never got a chance to talk to him. I spent my time talking to my fellow incarcerants in the Ted Wheeler, Rod Underhill, Multnomah County gulag. And that it is. That it is. And guess who pays for it? You do. And guess why people are there? You are. And when I say you, I'm actually talking to everybody on the city council. And you, if you support them still, or supported them ever, because the gang task force that they just funded again, despite all of us knowing that it's illegal and unconstitutional and is under federal oversight, and is the reason for a meeting that's going on tonight, comically enough, called the PCEEP, or some other awful meaningless acronym, which is as awful and meaningless as the council itself, which is just a capitulation to the power people to put their people on a public board and make it look like somebody can give input to people. And they do give valuable input to intelligent people, none of whom matter or make decisions or empowered to do so. And so that's, if you were in sales, which I was once in sales, and I've worked for many companies that have sales. Hey, do you like my vintage Neil Goldschmidt pin? Okay, one of the things when you work in sales, I look forward to teaching you a lot of things these years, as this year, as we attempt to save the world or our lives or our city. If we do that, which is uncertain to me at this moment. One of the things that I should get back to. Oh, yes. When somebody from a sale in a sales career. What were we talking about? We were talking about, I apologize. It's been had very, very little sleep and some good beer and other nice things, but I was asked to come on and say hello to you. Somebody wanted to see some proof of life, and I understand that. And I think that's a lovely thing. I'm glad to be here talking to you, if only for a few brief minutes. So anyway, oh yes. So as salespeople go, when that stuff's going on, that's just, oh, I can't remember the term I was going to do. I'll come back to it. I apologize greatly for that. We'll look back. Okay, we're in jail. We're talking about the jail, the cell blocks, the nurses, the slave labor. So for the privilege of being in a less worse environment than the rest of us, 6 men, six out of 70 cells in 2 tiers are allowed to be the orderlies, and those are really cool guys. Every single one of them, to me, was a good guy, and we lost 3 out of the 6 while we were there, and usually they hold that job for a pretty long time. Some of those guys are there for a long time. The thing about this place that makes it so special and worse than prison, if I was trying to remind you, is that prison, they give you education and tests and things that are going on. There's all kinds of things going on where you can improve yourself or improve your life. This is just pure pointless torture and solitary confinement. And when you do move, or if you do move, you move in heavy chains. And I can attest to you as someone who has, don't laugh at me when I say this because I can prove it. I have very big bones, okay? I'm a big boned guy. At their most expanded, handcuffs do not fit the width of my, the diameter, the circumference, or any of those things of the wrist of my bone in the wrist, okay? And I've had handcuffs on a lot of times now, and I was tortured in handcuffs in Centralia, Washington. That's in my book too. You'll enjoy that, especially since it's all on audio tape. The man and the team that were torturing me had pocketed my phone while on record because they're idiots. And then they led the torture with my phone in the pocket. Believe me, when I got my phone back, I was extremely interested and surprised to see that it had been recording the whole time. Portland Police Bureau, my favorite pig, as I like to say, Matt Jacobson, does know to turn the device off completely, which will help you with shutting down audio recording. That's for the Centralia Police. Fine, horrible, terrible human beings, amazing human beings in Centralia, Washington, and in whatever the hell county jail that place was, which we won't talk about today. So anyway, so that was handcuff torture, okay? And now I've been arrested a whole bunch of other times. The nicest one were the federal police at ICE. Those were the best ones. Those guys used some what I would call humane restraints, some type of zip ties. Most people don't want felonies while they're getting arrested, so they don't resist the cops, because felonies take a long time for you to go home. It takes a really long time for you to go home when you do a felony. And some guys with their record never go home again if they do a felony. So those are things that guys inside don't want to do. And these folks, maybe myself now included, are professional criminals, or at least the criminal class. And of course, many too many of them are people of color. We won't even talk about those race disparities because they're too obvious for me to talk to you about at the moment. They're as bad as they are on paper when you see the human beings and are with the human beings that represent those statistics. I wish our city council could do the Stanford experiment and be in that prison with those guys for a period of time. I think they'd learn a lot, as I did. I learned more in 20 days than I have learned in a really long time. That was an intensive 28 days. Imagine a really terrible cruise, like where everybody is in some terrible place, and if you leave your room, you pretty much, like, it's no good anywhere you go. There's no safety and there is no peace. So imagine that. That's a good sometimes analogy. And I've never been on a cruise. Maybe that's my personal bias about cruises, is that somehow I associate a cruise with the fact that they might give me a small place and lock me in it, and I might never be able to leave again. I don't have fear of many different things. That's something I don't want to experience. And so I probably won't do that. Cheers. What else? There's a couple things I wanted to tell you. All right. So the PCEEP board, the powerless one that they give rise to, so that the people that got lied to in the process of the federal investigation into the Portland policing's practices of racial profiling and disparity under equal protection of the United States Constitution, all that little stuff, those pesky incidents, those all roll up today into a powerless thing called the PCEEP, where people that are actually really interesting from the community go to spread good information that will be ignored in perpetuity and that has been known for a very long time. So that's how the system works, which is that it doesn't, and it won't, and it can't, and it hasn't. That's bad news, but I think there's much worse news I could share with you than that. I think you're pretty up to speed on that shit. Like throw me a frowny face if you don't think you're up to speed on how bad policing in America is right now, because I don't think you know me if you're that confused about how bad policing in the United States of America is right now. From an institutional perspective, remember, your neighbor, your uncle, or your friend, they can all choose to be nice to you. In the New York City Police Bureau, it's 2019, and they still call the famous man Serpico, who fought for your civil rights in court, and they attempted to kill him many, many times over, and he's going to go ahead and I think die on his own, maybe after a lot of us on this broadcast right now. And they still call him a rat. So the great Samson Costales, Alex M. Salazar, Robert Gettinger, men that worked in law enforcement and lost their careers and their families and all of their friends and all of their personal safety and wealth until they won their lawsuits, some of them, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing when you make the city pay, when they make the city pay. Those fine folks did not stay in the system. They did not stay quiet. And they're some of the people that you can count on your very few little hands and toes, probably not even both of those, which I think is 20 for most of us, 21 for most prison guards. Ba-dum-bum. Thank you, Multnomah County Sheriffs, and for your library skills and other things that you provide. Thank you. I'm sure that I see you. There's probably a couple of you that I would actually love to see and would smile at, and the others I would laugh at you, much as I did when I looked at you before. From the inside. So, that's sad for you. Man, those guys volunteer to spend their lives underground in a fucking prison. The money's good. Unlike the movie choices, and my ass would fall asleep. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Just say no, as Nancy Reagan said. Just say no to becoming a prison guard. I don't think that's what you want for your kid. If your daughter becomes a stripper instead of a prison guard, be thankful. The money's good and it's honest, and you don't have to hurt anybody, probably but yourself. But we all do that when we're in our 20s, apparently, or most of us. I've seen a lot of that I can share with you. So that thing's going on tonight with the police, but it's a waste of time. Other than it's good entertainment, you'll meet some good community members. I have a lot to tell you about that in the book, and it's called Scientific Method and Information Filtering, and there's all kinds of really great concepts like a personal bias or a confirmation bias that makes people like the five that sit up on the wall and Ted Wheeler in particular, completely useless people, and in fact, worse than useless people, damaging people to our society and damaging people to our city, and criminals. And everybody is not a criminal because their hand is on the gun. In fact, by criminal standard, I've met some very charming young men, barely into adulthood, who have spent a significant amount of time inside, because if they're with a group of X number of other similarly profiled, and I use those terms very purposefully, similarly profiled young men and women, sometimes a few, not very many, relatively, but a few, When those folks are profiled, and when something bad happens, they all get the same charges. So if you go do a gun crime with your 6 best high school friends, and this happens, okay, and your 6 best high school friends, and you make a very bad decision, number one, I'll bet you were under the influence of some kind of substance, legal or illegal. It is really no matter. Kids of that age, from all different races and all different housing statuses and lifestyles, experiment with drugs that hopefully most of us grow out of if we live to do so. Not all of us. There are many, many people that are similarly aged to myself, as I had my birthday in prison on Father's Day. So if you were with those people in some way, in some vehicle or whatever else, when they had a weapon, some kind of a deadly weapon, you're all going to get the same charges. Now, conversely, when a cop makes a mistake, they say this doesn't represent our department. When a cop's racist, they say this doesn't represent us. Nothing represents us, but everything we do represents all of us. Okay, so you understand in other ways, other than the fact that police can lie to you, and that's legal. They can tell you about information that does not exist. They can tell you about witnesses that do not exist. They can tell you about laws that do not exist, rights that you do have that you are not going to get from them. And they can do all of these things and get away with it, okay? And they do every day. That's what they do. So we're back to why Uncle Bill, or why the guy at the end of the street with the flag in his driveway, who seems like a nice guy to you and your kids at the football game, is a nice guy to you and your kids at the football game. But he's part of a scientifically proven racist system of policing, law enforcement, and justice, and incarceration, for heaven's sake. You want to be heartbroken in jail, and I'm not talking about myself, because there was an end date for everything I ever did, and there still is, should they attempt to or be able to put me back in there, which I do not believe they will have the chance to do. You want to be heartbroken? Spend it listening to mostly young fathers, because the old fathers don't have any contact with their children at all. Listen to the mostly young fathers sing songs over the phone, and try not to fight with the loved ones that still talk to them from the outside. It's book material, that I can tell you. It's definitely book material. So that's the kind of stuff you're going to learn from the inside. But I read just some great authors. Bill Nye, some tremendous work that are in there that changed, I think, my outthinking, my outlook on outer space, and on Bill Nye, and on science. And I hope I get to meet Bill Nye someday. And Richard Dawkins, who I will not get to meet because Richard Dawkins passed away, but an amazing Richard Dawkins book that explained to you, as I will also assert to you, that reality is far more beautiful and miraculous than magic or miracles that we can imagine as human beings could ever be. Because everything that we are, which is family, and everything that we do, which is a lot of bad stuff, and everything that we can do that is good stuff, that's all human, okay? And we're literally all related. And because of tribalism, which believe it or not, Bill Nye, who is a scientist, but I guess now actually a CEO, and I would call him almost more of a social scientist now. Maybe he's always been a social scientist, as a guy that wanted to be a comedian and became a science teacher after being a successful, brilliant man and engineer. So Bill Nye, Richard Dawkins, who passed away, the miracle of reality, and all of the things that you learn up through college chemistry and organic chemistry. And my daughter graduated from high school while I was in that jail, and I'm so very proud of her. And all of those things that you can learn when you have time to not just read those books, but to internalize them and to write about them, because they align so much with the work that you already have done, that it puts you into another plane of thinking that I would say Bill Nye calls solving the big problems of the world and changing the world. And again, I agree with him. And he calls it everything all at once thinking, or a lot of times thought of as bottom-up design, an upside-down pyramid where with the right design at the start, that's where you do the work. That's where the resources are small, but you do all the work. And then once you start spending the money and hiring people and filling up City Hall with a bunch of useless people like Ted does, and useless mercenaries like Ted does, and the other silly four people that sit on that silly wall, which if I ever had that job, which I won't and I don't want, the first thing I would do is cut that wall down. It's ridiculous and it's an embarrassment to humanity and to Portland because they're liars. So, and I will prove that. I don't just say they're liars because I'm angry and out of jail. I'm not angry at all. I'm extremely happy, and I am out of jail and extremely happy. But I do believe that they're criminals and that they will pay for what they have done, and they will not last the year. Not with me out of jail, and that's where I intend to stay. And not with us winning, which is what I intend to help us do, if you should choose to join me. Or not. Either way, I don't ask anybody to join me because I am nothing. I have no money. I have no assets. I seek no money and no assets. And let's see, I have a movie and a book and 2 kids that I love and a woman that I love and a dog that I love, and no crimes that anyone can hold against me other than ones that I chose to make with my free speech. So it's bad luck for them that they are dealing with somebody that will not go away, that is home here, and that knows how to beat them and knows the truth. And I grew up playing their game. I just hated it because I hate them. Not as people. I don't really know them as people. I don't know what Ted is as a person. As a public person, he's a liar and a racist and a fake progressive and many, many other things. A mayor and a leader is not one of them. So that's a problem for all of you. That's a problem for me. It's a problem for everybody. And it's not because I want his job. It's because somebody has to do his job, and he's not going to, ever. Okay? We've gone past the point of no return. Ted is Ted. Ted did not find redemption in anything. And now he's spending $2 million a year to keep you from speaking in City Hall. That's a really bad bargain overall, but it's a worse bargain for you to pay for your own silencing from powerless mercenaries that have no business being there in the first place and have no policy or reason to even pay attention to your civil rights whatsoever. And Ted waves his hand like Caesar, and everybody just parts and everybody runs out of the room. And then when Caesar says you may let them back into the room, they come back into the room, and everybody plays the game. And if I don't play the game right, then, whoa, this guy's obstructing governmental and judicial administration. In 5 minutes, he did enough that we should put him in jail for over a year. In 5 minutes, multiple counts if he does it more times, which he did. That mean guy who uses his free speech as we run away and hide in our safe rooms and and try to lie about the person and pretend like we're scared when the guy's not a scary guy. And if you are scared of me, you probably have a reason to be because you're a liar, and I don't do well with liars, except they don't hurt them. So you don't have to be scared about that, but I will take your career and I will take your job and your money too. So that'll be fun. Anyway, what else we got? The business world has better villains, I will say. These guys are not good liars. And being a public person, having to run for office and pretend you have a constituency still makes you more accountable than the corporate guys who most people, when the crimes that they do will never be known unless somebody like me is dumb enough to talk about it or whatever else. But there's not many people that are that dumb. People need to feed their kids. And they have to do a whole lot less heinous things than enslave people or carry guns to feed their kids where I used to work. So let's not criticize them too hard. I have a lot of friends there, but I wouldn't do that life if you gave it to me for more figures than either one of us ever cares to see. So that's a no. And that makes me also a person that can speak to them because there's nothing from their system I want. Okay, that's still, again, this is all strategy. This is a really bad idea for them. and they're really bad at their jobs. In the corporate world, they can take your job and you won't get another one like it for a very long time. And especially you won't get another one like it for a very long time or ever if you're that guy who does not play along with the other people in the game to make the most money possible, because the only reason anybody goes into those jobs, except for somebody that's probably either as defective or stupid as I am, is to make the most money possible. And if you don't fit into that, if you don't either want to make the most money possible or make the company make the most money off you possible so that you can make the most money possible, if you don't want those things, you are not a fit for the corporate world. And if you do something about it, much like our friends in the police world, who I think I identify with quite closely, much like those fine men, you lose everything in the process. Your house, many times your family, you may go homeless, houseless, as I like to say. You will lose all your financial assets. Should you find a lawyer that chooses to take your case, do not expect to ever get any amount that could possibly compensate for what you had to go through to get there over a period of years. I tell this same thing, by the way. We probably have some people that I have told this to people when their family member has been murdered by the police. This is part of my speech. It's the same speech, which is the only thing worse than a lawsuit is filing a lawsuit and losing it. Better not to have filed than to file and lose. Because when you file and lose, that's a whole lot of pain, and then it gets worse. And you think things can't get worse, and can't get worse, and they actually do get worse, which is a unique place in life to be that most of us, or many of us, don't ever escape from if we get there. Many of us do. And that's even better, because then we get to turn 51 and do some of the things that I've got to do by staying alive. And I'm very happy with being alive right now, of where my kids are and what they get to do and how healthy they are, and how that allows me to do the things I need to do that are important while I'm alive. So this was not to pump you up, although I hope it did. And I hope that we get to talk a lot over the coming days. And I hope that you help me finish off getting this book done, and finish off, most importantly, and even the book is pointed toward this as well, get Moose going. The movie, documentary Moose film, which Moose documentary film called Moose. I'm really tired, guys. Get that out of the editor's office and a trailer to you and into the theaters. And I think we're going to have something very special that we're all going to be very proud of for a very, very long time. That could change the way people think about policing and police murder and police brutality. And in my Bill Nye-like optimism, I believe could save human life many, many times over. And you're my family, so I would feel very, very good about saving lives of people that you and I care about. All right, guys, that is it from me. You will see me again, but maybe not soon. So love you. I really do. And I was proud to be in jail and talk about you, and talk about how important you are to me, and the fact that I do believe that they are still important to you. They are to me, if they're not important to anyone else. The suffering that was done was not by me in a period of 461 hours. I will get the math right in the book. I have fact checkers that will take care of these things. But the suffering was not done by me, because I am not a felon. I do not have a long-term criminal record, and nothing they're charging me with is enough to keep me in perpetuity until I may or may not ever come out, which is what it feels like when you're in there, and for many people is true. So, since I wasn't facing that, and I was facing you and my kids and other people that I know, I was okay, like I told you I would be. So do not fret for me. Do not think that I am traumatized or hurt or anything. I am changed. I'm a different person than I was. That was expected. a hard way to do it, but I think that in order to talk to people about civil disobedience and to financially escape the consequences, which you can. And by the way, I did not put up my own bail. I don't have enough money to make my own bail. I have not had enough money to make my own bail. In fact, without a friend, I would be houseless right now, and I am out of jail. So do not think that I was able to get out of jail by luxury or by privilege. I have nothing. If you have nothing, then we're in there together. If you have anything other than debt, you have more than I do in this room, which is about 9 by 10. And I have really no other possessions besides the computer I'm talking to you on, which is all I need, because my job is not to take money. Taking money changes what we think and do. It changes our bias. That's what my book's about. It's about why people are responsible when they take money from each other and exchange favors from each other and use our medium of exchange and our work to make themselves richer while we, the people, become poorer. Pretty good premise, right? I think it's going to be a really good book. I think it's going to be a better than good book. I laugh to my friends and say, if I'm not a shitty writer, we're going to have a really, really good book here. And if I'm proud of it, I hope you'll be proud of it. And I am extremely proud of what has been going on, and the fact that City Hall and G4S is now cracking and has cracked, and that I had a wonderful meeting with the DA, and that I have seen what passes for their evidence and what passes for their charges. And I think that we're going to have a really, really good time when we go to court. I expect those to be very exciting days. And none of that excitement is me wondering how much time I'm going to spend behind bars for the rest of my life. So let's all keep everything in perspective, even though I know that sucked for a lot of people. There's people that are really, really super mad at me. Funny story, the first people that I got out of jail, I met them and I was all excited. And one of them needed to punch me and proceeded to do so 3 times. And none of that hurt because I've been exercising, and my chest is very large and stomach is very muscular, and I don't have a 6-pack. I don't do that one, but I have the other kind of like gigantic barrel, and none of them hurt. But I have a really big fist bruise in my stomach, and none of that happened in jail, I can assure you. I was never hurt or injured in the process, except for the G4S security guards who illegally attacked me. If you have not seen that video, I highly recommend it for a few minutes. You can always turn it off. I use filthy language because one of them tried to get me locked up for a felony, and that's going to be really bad news for him too. And I'm going to enjoy that a lot. The fact that trying to frame me and being caught by 3 different cameras is going to really be a bad result for a mercenary swine. So there's some good shit that's going to come out of this, and it's going to be a lot of fun for some people. Anyway, okay. Have a wonderful evening. I'm now I put this on just for you. Thank you to my friends that gave me this piece from probably before I was born, late 60s, when the child rapist and Neil, Ted Wheeler protege, or Ted Wheeler mentor, was raping children in the mayor's office and having a whole bunch of people help him do that. So I'm going to be taking that off, but I did put that on for you and Ted. And I would certainly assume the police will be watching this, and maybe we may be watching this in court together because they have a great affinity toward recording my social media broadcasts, which is great because the more I do in public, then we all have the same picture, right? That's the beauty of the camera. And that's why I kind of got interested in these guys that call themselves cop watchers, because when you film and have unedited footage, cops like to edit footage, but when you do it right and have unedited footage, then you actually have a record of truth that can protect us from tyranny. Now, that is not telling you that I agree that body cameras will do anything. They won't. It's a big waste of time, and they're going to spend time on that before they realize it's a waste. Because here in Portland, we're super smart, but we don't reinvent the wheel anywhere or anything differently or anyhow differently or with any more success than anyone else recreates the wheel, because the wheel is already here. Police cameras have been around for a very long time. The way the police use them against us instead of for us has been proven. It is proven. We can talk about it scientifically in the book, and we will do so. but it's not going to help you or yours stay alive. And if it doesn't help you or yours stay alive, then I'm not working on it. That's how I'm doing it. I'm not working on stuff anymore that doesn't help people stay alive. So I love you guys. Happy Monday, if that's what it is. And I look forward to seeing you soon, okay? All right, bye.